Hello everyone, I'm Lise Gorkas from Page One Publishing and Douglas Magazine. Douglas is an award-winning business brand. We provide insightful and in-depth coverage of local business, news, trends, and issues here on Vancouver Island and beyond. We also publish the popular brands Yam Magazine and Spruce Magazine. Today, it's our distinct pleasure to introduce Melanie Joly, Minister of Economic Development and Official Languages, for this keynote presentation. We're delighted to sponsor this session and to support the summit and the island economy. So please come check out our virtual exhibitor booth, come say hello. We want to hear the stories that you'd like to see in our magazines in the coming year, and come see what marketing opportunities we have for 2021.
Good evening and welcome to our keynote presentation. My name is Dan Hurley, Chair of the Vancouver Island Economic Alliance and Principal with the Hurley Martin Group. I want to begin by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you this evening from the ancestral and unceded territories of the Snuneymuxw and Coast Salish peoples, Aisepka Siyam. I also want to thank Douglas Magazine for their sponsorship of tonight's session. It is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker this evening, the Honorable Melanie Joly, Minister of Economic Development and Official Languages. In this role, Minister Joly is responsible for Canada's regional development agencies, including Western Economic Diversification Canada. Elle est également responsable de protéger les deux langues officielles du Canada et à en faire la promotion, y compris au sein de l'espace numérique. Minister Joly is also responsible to safeguard and promote Canada's two official languages, including in the digital sphere. She previously served as Minister of Canadian Heritage and has represented the Montreal riding of Hunsik-Cartierville in the House of Commons since 2015. A graduate of l'Université de Montréal and the University of Oxford, she is the author of Changing the Rules of the Game, a book on public policy and civic engagement. Tout le monde, il me fait plaisir de vous présenter l'honorable Melanie Joly. Bonsoir, Madame la Ministre.
Bonsoir, Dan. Merci pour ton français. Je suis très impressionnée par ton bilinguisme et ta capacité de t'exprimer. Merci. Merci pour l'effort et merci pour la délicatesse. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Of course, it is great to be with you for the 14th Annual State of the Island Economic Summit. I was thinking the other day, and I realized that my last in-person travel before COVID was actually in British Columbia and even on the island. I was here just at the beginning of the pandemic in Asia, talking about the major effects of the decrease of Chinese visitors on the tourism industry in BC. And I remember more specifically talking about the fact that the duty-free shops in the Vancouver airports were really going through a difficult time because their sales had dropped. And so this was to illustrate how the government was there to help the BC industry. And of course, we know since then that a lot has happened. I'm definitely happy to be back. Of course, this is a bittersweet experience because I would have loved to be here physically and be with you. So we know that 2020 has been more than challenging. I know that most of you are worried about your future and your employees' future and how to get through this crisis. And as a former entrepreneur myself, I know that the hardest part of business is really to understand the risks and the risk environment in which we are. And it is really impossible right now to evaluate these risks. So I know this creates a lot of anxiety. And I know that many of you are working extremely hard just to stay afloat. Cash flow is tight, productivity is down, and you need to pay your bills and meet all the things that are required to pay your payroll while following what Bonnie Henry says and serving customers in new ways. And I know that this is far from being easy. The federal government has taken on debt to ease the burden on Canadians and their businesses. But I'm very aware that business owners here, what they tell me is that they're still much more indebted than before the pandemic. And let me tell you something. I hear you loud and clear. And my answer to your call is, above all, the government of Canada is there and we'll be with you during this journey. And we'll stick it out as long as it takes to survive now and to thrive in the future. And I know the horizon may be gloomy right now, and it's been like that for a while, but let's not forget where we come from. Where we came from. We need to remember that there were blue skies before the pandemic, and it may take some time, but we'll get there again. And we need to work together to do so. Vancouver Island is blessed with a diverse combination of urban centers, rural and Indigenous communities. The island's economy is based on multiple sectors: tourism, manufacturing, agriculture and fishing, technology, and more. It's that diversity, both in terms of people and economic activity, that contributed and will contribute to this prosperity of the island. And I want to first quickly go back in time, talk about how the government is dealing with the pandemic and its dire consequences, but also how we collectively are preparing and focusing on a strong economic recovery. Yes, of course, for Vancouver Island, but also for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. I hope today to inspire optimism in all of us, and to talk to you about what we can do right here, right now. From the early stages of the pandemic, our government adopted a strategy that was deeply anchored in people. We knew we needed to help workers to put food on the table for their families, and we had to make sure that business owners could bridge the gap created by the lockdowns while keeping their staff on payroll. Our government moved fast with programs that now everybody in this room, in this virtual room, are now familiar with: the CEBA account, the rent relief program, the wage subsidy, and CERB. But to have a strategy anchored in people meant we needed to listen to the very same workers and business owners that we were trying to help. And that was a big part of my job during the pandemic, and it still is. Because as a member of the COVID-19 Cabinet Committee, my job was to speak to people on the ground in BC to really understand what was happening and how we could make your life easier. I was meeting on Zoom, of course, and the different platforms we all know, with business owners and community leaders. And I spoke with thousands of them, and in BC in particular, I had the chance to talk several times to the head of the Chambers of Commerce of BC, of the Vancouver Board of Trade, and the Surrey Board of Trade. And of course, I spoke to many mayors, one of my favorite being Lisa Helps, and I know Lisa is here tonight, so it's great to see you even virtually. And I wanted really to understand from Lisa, from other people, what was happening. And I even talked to Walt Judas, who is a good friend now, who was telling me what was going on in the tourism sector. Same for Paul Nursey, who also was there to answer my calls when definitely I was trying to understand a bit more what was happening on the ground. And I spoke also to many companies and incubators, such as Alacrity and Innovative Island. As this dialogue was ongoing, it became apparent that for a number of reasons, some of you did not have access to government support. And we needed to catch businesses that fell through the cracks. So based on all that information, and in order to build a safety net, we developed a new package, a new program, which is the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. And it is now has a budget of $1.5 billion, and we call that the Triple RF, the Regional and Recovery Fund. In an effort to be as close and as connected to the situation on the ground, which at the time was an additional challenge considering that the federal government is traditionally really far away from the grassroots dynamics than other levels of government, we decided to use our very own regional development agencies. And in BC, this fund is administered by Western Economic Diversification Canada, or we call also WD. Because WD interacts with the people that live and work in your community, it is one of the best tools to get a close read of the situation on the ground. It's a bit like our eyes and our ears on the ground. It is also the only federal department headquartered in the West. Since then, since the beginning of the pandemic and through this new approach, WD has protected over 9,000 jobs all across British Columbia. We've helped more than 2,000 businesses keep their employees, cover costs, and play a role in recovering our economy. And I'm pleased of the overall government's response to COVID, but especially of the work we've achieved through WD, which quickly showed concrete results. When businesses such as, for example, the Wilson's Transportation Group in Victoria, or again, the Campbell River Whale Watching, and also another tourism business, the Adventure Tours or Naibo Bay Result, when they came to see us, well, we were there to help them because they were really facing real difficulties. And so when they called, we answered. We were a lifeline for businesses during the pandemic. And being also the minister in charge of tourism, it is a file, more than a file, I would say, an industry that I know very well and for which I've been advocating for. I was the minister when we were going through record high international visitors, and now it is one of the biggest crises the industry has gone through since the Second World War. So when tourism was the first hit and the hardest hit by the pandemic, and I know that we're now not out of the woods yet, but we know also that the tourism sector is extremely resilient. Meanwhile, WD continues to be there for tourism businesses and to offer much needed assistance. We could talk about tourism for a long time, and I'm sure we will, because Paul Nursey is here and Walt Judas as well. But also, we know that the island is surrounded by the ocean, and obviously it lends itself to the seafood industry, which also has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Over half of BC's shellfish licenses are held on Vancouver Island, and this industry has been suffering due to the reduced demand. Again, WD was there for fishers and their employees and people all along the supply chain. Across industries, entrepreneurs are trying every day to make sure that they take sound decisions while dealing with an economic tsunami. No one had thought it would be happening. They also need professional advice, technical help, and general guidance. And WD has been providing just that. In addition to direct funding that I mentioned, we're also able to provide technical help, guidance, and resources to businesses across the province. That's what we do for a living. An example of this is when we were able to partner with the province of BC and Small Business BC to ensure businesses had access to the BC Business COVID-19 support services. And this has provided sound, thoughtful advice for over 7,000 businesses in BC. I must say, I have heard a lot of your stories during COVID, and I've been really amazed about your resiliency. You're making us extremely proud, and it is now our job as your government to ensure that we hold our end of the bargain and provide support well into the future. And let's talk about the future. I think we can draw a lot of inspiration from the throne speech that was given recently by our government. For example, our government is launching a campaign to create over 1 million jobs, or basically recreate the jobs that were lost during the pandemic. One way will be to do that by extending the wage subsidy through the next summer. But we know that we will have to keep investing in businesses which are creating and maintaining jobs. That's why I'm working with WD to come up with a plan to do exactly that. saving and creating jobs, protecting and creating jobs. Here directly on Vancouver Island is, after all, what we do, and that's our bread and butter. This plan will have to be reflective of the reality of different regions, a plan anchored in your reality, in your stories, and your needs. For instance, we earlier announced an extra $600 million in the budget for economic development, from which nearly 300 million went to the West, so pretty much half of it. This was our government recognition of two major points. First, the West has been harder hit by the pandemic. And second, the reality in the West is different from the rest of Canada. And here today, I can go even further. And I want to say that the economy of BC is different from the economy in the Prairies. Yes, the Western provinces share the commonality in that they draw from their land, but the Prairies know the challenges of never-ending vast plains, which they derive their harvest and economy, and their economy is long married to extraction, and we know that. But BC always faces a slightly different challenge. It carries within its border a multitude of climates and types of lands. This includes, among of its many challenges, the continued questions of transport, such as through the mountains, the forests, and the north, and of course, sometimes through rivers and the ocean. In tourism, BC promotes the beauty of its mountain, even in the winter, and touts the success of its vineyards. The province of BC continues to build on an innovative spirit and are forever pursuing the most advanced and cutting edge in not only AI, but clean tech and aerospace. BC continues to attract top talent and continue to build a world-class tech ecosystem. So you also have vigorous production of clean energy. And this is something the Government of Canada has supported and will continue to encourage in the future. And I want you to know that your government is aware of the situation more than ever. The biggest change, and I feel the biggest opportunity for the federal government during the pandemic, has been really to be closer and closer to the ground. We must continue to work that way. And I believe in a tailored, made in BC economic development approach. We also recognize in this speech from the throne that we need to do more for small businesses and more to support industries that have been the hardest hit, including tourism. As I noted previously, in a place which as much rugged splendor as Vancouver Island, tourism is a key sector. It is responsible for $2.2 billion of economic activity on the island and 60,000 jobs. And the sector is still suffering, so we know we have to do more. But we're in this together, and our government has put support in place to help workers and businesses bridge between high seasons. We know the work is not over, and WD will continue to be on your side. I have been collaborating closely with my colleagues in BC and Canada, but also internationally, to position Canada as a safe country once the pandemic is over. And this can really be one of our best competitive edge when comparing to other nations. I think that there are various areas where W can work with organizations throughout the West and on Vancouver Island to build back better. It is not a small task to build a stronger, more resilient and greener economy. It will take hard work and determination. But my friends, we need to remember that, as I said at the beginning of my speech, beyond the thickest of gray clouds, the skies remain blue. We need to go back to those blue skies. And let's do that together. And it starts right here, right now on Vancouver Island. So thank you for your attention. Merci beaucoup. Ça m'a fait plaisir de vous adresser la parole. And please keep it up, stay safe, and we'll be by your side.
And merci, Madame la Ministre. Thank you very much, Minister Joly, for your remarks this evening. And we definitely will, even though it's almost November on the West Coast, and it is cloudy and stormy sometimes, we'll be looking for those blue skies and that opportunity in the future. So thank you very much. And we know it's late there in Ottawa, so we appreciate you staying up and being here for us for our delegates this evening. So thank you. And we look forward to welcoming you in person to Vancouver Island when it's safe to do so.
Me too. Thank you, Dan. Stay safe as well.
Thank you. And finally, thank you very much to Douglas Magazine for sponsoring our keynote this evening. And we will see everyone again tomorrow for day 3 of the Vancouver Island Economic Summit. Good night et bonne soirée.